My name is Tennis Instead. This is the 8-Sided Blog, and today we're going to be talking about accountability in entertainment. Over the course of the last 2 months, not one, but two of my trusted friends and colleagues have mounted productions where both their COVID compliance and their handling of payroll and of the livelihoods of the people working under them were not transparent and not appropriate. I'm laughing because I'm furious, and I'm probably going to be stopping and starting this video quite a bit over the course of my attempt to talk through this, so I'm just going to beg your patience and we'll get to the meat and potatoes here, okay? Specifically, the problem is that making a film is expensive. It's hard to find money to make movies, and independent producers in Hollywood have a tendency to fall into the trap of thinking that anything that saves money is inherently good and inherently justified. And as people who have followed my career are very aware, that mentality is the reason why I suffered a traumatic brain injury on set, and it crippled me for 6 years. So there's two issues here. First of all, SAG, for those who don't know, SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, the union for actors in Hollywood, has a list of requirements for COVID compliance to make sure that people don't get sick on set, because people are working in very close proximity. It's very easy to transmit diseases. And like most of the sort of COVID regulations in this country, the list of requirements is not comprehensive, and it certainly doesn't guarantee safety. It's more of a list of guidelines on which to build a platform of reasonable risk mitigation. So, you know, even if you're maintaining those regulations, you're still putting your cast and crew at risk of infection. And those regulations were completely disregarded by both productions. In one case, the regulations were considered optional for the cast and crew, and in the other case, materials weren't even supplied for the sterilization, of tools. Masks weren't supplied to cast and crew. There's a whole laundry list of things that were in fact promised in writing and which weren't delivered on. And in both cases, the other thing that occurred on these productions is a lack of transparency with regards to payroll. In one case, there were contractual elements that were talked around and not brought up, and then held over the heads of the cast and crew after the fact in order to facilitate a non-traditional payment plan on the part of the producer. In the other case, they simply didn't pay the cast and the crew. They promised to, everybody was obligated to, the money was withheld, and the production went on to execute reshoots. One of the first things that we overlook in this industry, in our effort to kind of balance the budget and balance the financial elements of the film, is the safety of the cast and crew. For the people who aren't aware, I myself was hit on the head with a sword on a set, and I suffered a traumatic brain injury. I suffered a subdural hematoma, and for the better part of a decade, I couldn't walk. I oftentimes couldn't speak. I lost family and friends and countless business opportunities because people couldn't handle my presence as a cripple. The reason why it happened was because the filmmakers felt justified in sacrificing safety for the sake of expedience and for the sake of creating production value without the cash to support it. The person handling the stunts on that set was not a stunt coordinator. It wasn't somebody with any stunt coordination experience. And in the credits, they're not listed as a stunt coordinator, but that's the job that they were doing on set. They weren't qualified for it. And for legal reasons, they can't claim credit for it. But that's not something they told anyone while we were there. The image that was portrayed on set was that it was a safe environment. And any objections that I or anyone else had with regards to the stunts that were being executed were quashed in the name of making sure that the footage got shot. And the corners that were cut certainly didn't stop there. They were executing stunts with weapons, and there was no EMT. What infuriates me personally about the violations of safety and accountability that are happening on the sets that I'm referencing now is the fact that the people who are making these executive decisions are intimately familiar with the details of my experience. They know firsthand exactly what can go wrong when you cut corners with regards to the safety and well-being of your cast and crew. Okay? I'm inclined to say that they've seen a worst-case scenario. You know, and on the one hand, it's reasonable to say, well, Tenny, it's not a worst case scenario, you're still alive. But in terms of the damage to the production and in terms of the hassle, I guarantee you that the people who injured me have wished at certain points that I had died, because I wouldn't have been able to speak my mind. I wouldn't have had a voice. It actually would have been less damaging for the production if I had been killed on that set. And I am conscious of the fact that the people who injured me would have been far less inconvenienced had I died on that set. That's a terrible thing to wish for. That's a terrible thing for a person to wish for. And it makes me nuts that people that I trust and respect and care for have put themselves in a position where they would wish for such a thing as that. You understand? Oh. Regardless of you know, how this relates to me and how this relates to my story, I have certain expectations of show people. I expect that we're going to care about one another's well-being. I expect that show business is about people to begin with. It's about the relationship fundamentally between a cast and an audience, and how the rest of us on a cast and crew support that relationship. That's the essence of what we do, is we build a bridge between the cast and the audience using story. Okay? If something is detrimental to the well-being of those people, of the people around us, then it's detrimental to the show. Fundamentally, there's no other way to see it. And if you're taking unreasonable risks with the well-being of the cast and crew, then it doesn't matter how you rationalize it. If you can't see how a film should enrich the cast and the crew and the audience who are brought together through the filmmaking process, then you're only making a film to feed your own ego. And if you are making a movie for the sake of your own glorification, to put your ideas out there and to be heard, if that's the thing that's driving you, and if it's worth hurting people, if it's worth putting people's lives in danger in order to achieve that thing, if the shortcuts that you are taking in order to get from one end of the production to the other put people's lives in danger, okay, or their well-being in danger, even just their paychecks, if you're putting their well-being in danger to finish the production, and if that production only fundamentally exists so that you can feel heard by an audience, then I judge you harshly. I judge you profoundly. And I'm asking everybody who's watching this video and who's getting to know this industry and who's finding their place in this industry, or who's revisiting their ethics, or who's revisiting their career plan, anybody who's watching this because they're looking for information, I'm asking you please to think about the people you're working with and to think about the people that you're working for and to make the film for them. You know, and if the resources aren't there to support them, then you're not ready to go into production. And if the story that you're telling doesn't serve them, make a different film. Don't worry about what it says about you. Use your interests, your passions to fuel the process of enriching these other people. Because that's fundamentally what we're here to do. That's what producing is, that's what directing is, that's what screenwriting is. It's basically every single person's job. An actor is there to give opportunities to the other actors. A special effects artist is there to make the actors look as credible as possible when they're doing the things that the movie requires them to do. Everybody's job on the set is to make everybody else on the set better. That's the whole process. That's the whole beauty of this industry. And if you're taking advantage of people's willingness to do that for other people so that you can look like a genius or so that you can look like a cultural icon, then I'm coming for you. Taking care of one another is everyone's responsibility in show business. Okay? We've been outcasts. Entertainers have been outcasts for most of history, in most of the cultures on this planet. Fundamentally, all we have is each other. Anyway, that's what I've got for this week. I wanted to take a minute, talk about it with you, let you know that this is not someone else's job, ever, okay? And if you're on a set where things aren't safe, leave. Okay, I understand that there's consequences in power relationships on any set. I get that. I'm here to tell you, it's not worth staying. I speak from personal experience. Let them figure their stuff out on their own. Okay? Okay. If you like these videos, if you're getting something out of them, please click like. Please click the subscribe button and click the little bell so you get your alerts when there's another 8-sided blog coming up. Thank you for taking a minute to sit with me in this, and we will talk about something more refreshing next week. Have yourselves a great week. Take care.